Christopher Kang'ombe, you're tuned in to Africa for Dummies, Member of Parliament for Kamfinsa constituency in Zambia.
I am an African.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Africa for Dummies podcast, where we break down complex issues so that everybody can understand and enjoy. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Zenge.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah. So today, as usual, we are always bringing you the best guests. And today, I think we are honored, and it's a privilege to have a honorable minister, Mr. Honorable Minister Christopher, Member of Parliament. Sorry, yes.
I'm not yet a minister.
Not yet.
Maybe I'm
Is that
speaking in
prophet?
faith. Maybe I'm speaking in faith. You must claim it. You must claim it. Honorable MP Christopher Kang'ombe, MP for Kamfinsa, and the former mayor of Kitwe. Thank you, Honorable, for joining us.
Thanks, Nathan. Thanks, Zenge, for inviting me. Looking forward to this interaction.
Yeah, so just to get started, just so that we have listeners from all over the place, so maybe they don't know who you are and who your background is. So maybe you can tell us about your upbringing and what your values and what shaped you and what caused you to move in this particular direction.
Well, thanks, Nathan. So Christopher Kang'ombe was born in Kitwe. For those that are familiar with Zambia, we have 10 provinces. So on the Copper Belt province, that is where people do a lot of copper mining and whatnot. Maybe that's why I'm very passionate about mining. So I was born in Kitwe, which is one of the places where copper mining started in Zambia, 1984. So if I calculate 1984 to today, that makes me 40 years old. I did my primary school in Kitwe. Did my secondary school in Kitwe at a school called Kitwe Boys Secondary School. Later on, I had an opportunity to begin learning leadership in high school, joining the public speaking society, what you call the debate society, understanding what is involved in public speaking, researching on topics, whether young girls who get pregnant should be readmitted into school. Now, I was in high school learning about those topics. Then I realized that there's governance involved. You need leaders to make a policy, and then you need to implement the policy. So there I was in high school doing all that researching. Later on, I was appointed head boy for the secondary school, which gave me an opportunity
Just going to ask if you're a prefect.
to begin learning leadership. From high school, I went into the Copper Belt University, which is the main university on the Copper Belt, to study engineering. I wanted to be an engineer, but at the same time, I'd already decided going into university that I'll venture into leadership. I'll take an active role in students' union politics, representing students. We don't have enough library space. We need better sanitation in our hostels. Those are things I was very passionate about when I went into uni. And that is how I got elected as Secretary General for the students and later on President for the students. So I had this level of exposure at a very young age, and then decided I should join the municipality, the Kitwe City municipality, representing residents in the area where I was staying. I was a student, so I was staying in Riverside, where the campus is for the university. So I decided I've done unionism. Let me now go for mainstream politics. That is how in 2006 I decided that I'm going to stand as councillor for an area called Riverside, where the university is stationed. So I was doing two things. I was a student, but I also managed to get elected as the representative of the people in that community, representing them in the council. So fast forward, colleagues, and for those that are tuned in, 2006, I got elected as councillor. 10 years I was councillor. I was only 21 years old when I was first elected. 10 years, by the age of 31, I now had the opportunity to be mayor for the city of Kitwe at 31. Then at the age of 35, 36, I got elected as a member of parliament for a constituency called Kamfinsa. This is in Ndeke village where I grew up, where I started my primary school. And that is where I'm privileged today to be their representative. But more than that, I represent the wider majority. I love watching football. I'm a soccer fan. If you ask me who was Africa Football of the Year 1988, I'll let you know. If you ask me who is better between Zidane and Ronaldinho, I'll tell you it's Ronaldinho. If you ask me Messi,
Yeah.
Cristiano, I'll tell you. Okay, so I'm a soccer fan. I support Incana Football Club back
Yeah.
home. Yeah, what else do you want to know? Yeah, I'm a father of three kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So,
much
That's
of
so
what
what
I've done is in Kitwe. It's only now that I get a chance to be in Lusaka for work. But I love my city. I love Kitwe. I hope I'll be buried in Kitwe, even if I become president of Zambia.
what a true politician. You didn't answer the Ronaldo Messi question.
No, it's definitely Messi.
We'll have to talk after the podcast. But I think you had I think you explained quite well. I think how you came up, from being a young person and being passionate about these issues, and then now you've literally reached. One would say that you reached your goals in terms of trying to represent the values and trying to represent what people would like to see change in their particular communities. My second question would be, how has your idea of politics changed throughout this process? Because I think sometimes when we enter into industries, we come in wide-eyed. There's a certain way that we expect these things to look, but we've known and we've heard that politics is quote unquote a dirty game. So my question would be, like, how has your idea of politics changed?
Well,
And yeah.
well,
are you more depressed, in short, by the
oh,
weight of
I
politics?
always tell, let me start by saying, I always tell young people, 2 weeks ago, I had a mentorship session for young people, the young
Yeah.
people that want to go into politics, those that want to go into leadership. I had a session with them because I've been doing a lot of mentoring for the longest. So I was telling them, first of all, you will not be able to get a call from someone to tell you, here's a leadership role, take it up. Okay? No phone call comes asking for people to venture into leadership. So you need to have the self drive. And this is what I always tell people. And I wanted to start from that perspective, Nathan and Zenge, to answer that important question, because the perspective I had when I was starting out, I thought that from students' union politics into mainstream, space would be made available for young people to be on the table where decisions are made, okay? To sit around a table where those in leadership will be able to say, this space is for young people, this space is for women that want to be in leadership, this will live for the elderly people. I had this ideal picture that it will be a walk in the path. But then I began realizing that if young people don't make the noise they need to make, for instance, in 2011, I had served 5 years as councillor. I wanted to be MP. I was told, Christopher, you're not ready financially. You can't compete. Your competitors have too much money. So I went another 5 years as councillor. I wanted to be MP after 10 years. I was told, be mayor of Kitwe because you are still building up one or two things. So my perspective about politics has changed, but I still hold the view that majority of people that may have good ideas, majority of people that can help us resolve healthcare, those that can help us get more maize out of our farmers, they stay away. They decide, we'll leave that to people like Christopher, who's been fighting for a lot of years. Christopher is used. Let Christopher, me joining politics. You may have a guy who understands how Zambians can raise money for mining. But you see, they decide to stay away because they want to be in the comfort zone. Do I blame them? maybe it's because of how politics have been. It's not an easy turf. You want to contest an election, you find that your polling agent is missing. He's been told, don't go and file your papers. They are just these tricks that people play out to disadvantage the opponent. But I hold the view that politics can be a good platform. It is a good platform to get your ideas out. And that is why my concept now is about ideas. I don't discuss political parties. I don't discuss, journalists have called me Nathan and Zenge. Christopher, politician so and so said this. What is your reaction? Then I tell
Yeah.
them, colleagues, then it will be an ending conversation about what I said and what someone else said. But
Yeah.
if we focus on the issue, if we decided, guys, let's discuss health insurance, we'll stick to the topic. So has my perspective changed? I think that there are just too many players who may not understand the privilege, the honor they have to change society through policies, through programs. You the sharp guys, you stay away. Okay, if I was to challenge any of you who's planning next year to contest
Yeah.
elections, you guys will say, just continue. We'll find something else. We'll find something else to do. So I'm thinking my perspective hasn't changed. Politics is a good thing. It's a platform for ideas to be floated, exchanged, but unfortunately, most people stay away.
Mm. And I think you've also, like, you've given us a trajectory of your sort of journey from childhood up to politics. But it seems politics has sort of always been in your blood, or from a very early young age. You said you're council at age 21. So, do you have, were there people around you that were in politics? Was your family in politics? Or was there a mentor that you're obsessed about or something? Why is it that someone at age 21 is thinking, let me be councillor? Because at age 21, like, what are people doing at age 21 right now? The foremost
Yeah,
thing,
what
that's
was
what
I
I'm trying to say.
thinking?
It's
What
not.
influenced me? What? Yeah, I think first of all, I when I was growing up, primary school, I really wanted to be a football player. Okay, because the area where I was raised in Ndeke Village, that is where Arthur Davis Stadium is. So Arthur Davis Stadium is the home of Power Dynamos. Okay, then if you walk across the main road, you cross into Usakile, there's Nkana Stadium. Okay? So in the old days, the best players in the national team were coming either from Mufulira Wanderers, Power Dynamos, or Nkana Football Club. So the stars we used to see, the people who inspired us in primary school were football players. You want to be Kalusha Bwaja, you want to be Charles Musonda. You are inspired. The people you see walking in your community are the superstars. But then I was raised by my dad is one person who never contested elections before. He never participated in politics, but he made sure we understood the history of our country. Okay, he's the parent who would make sure you're watching news. He would make sure you when you buy a newspaper, whether it's Times of Zambia or Daily Mail, the first thing you read is not football. You first read current affairs. Okay, it's 19 hours. It's news time. He'll make sure we are seated so that we know what's happening. You are up to date with current affairs. So Dad used
Mm,
to tell us stories about what happened in when Zambia got independence, how Kaunda was president, how the food riots began in 1980, 86, 87, how Zambians decided in 1991 that they wanted to change government. Now you are a young boy, you want to play football, right? But then you then begin appreciating the history of your country. You learn about Mainza Chona, you learn about Simon Mwansaka Pwepwe, you learn about Harry Mwangankumbula, not in class, but from home. So not realizing that as you venture into high school, you're doing public speaking, someone may have planted some foundation in you without you knowing. But the turning point for me, and I'm answering your question, 2000 and the year 2000 was my turning point. So I was pushed into public speaking by the person who was taking us in English, Mr. Peter Mulomba. I've told this story countless times, and I'll keep telling this story because you guys will need to know that there are people who played a key role in my leadership journey. And one of those key persons was Mr. Peter Mulomba. our teacher for English, who told me, Christopher, you need to join public speaking. Christopher, you can speak. Your voice is very audible. If you speak, we're able to pick your voice. Think of joining public speaking. It can work for you. He was just pushing me into that space. Maybe he didn't realize that fast forward 25 years later, I'll be a member of parliament. For him, I was just this young boy who showed potential, and then he pushed me into public speaking. I started researching about policies, and the rest is history. So those are two turning points. Dad telling us be up to date with current affairs, and then there's a teacher who tells me, Christopher, you can do it. You can speak in front of people. Get the confidence. You'll be a good public speaker, and that is how come today. When I was mayor for Kitwe, my secretary used to complain, Honorable Mayor for Kitwe doesn't like written speeches. He just wants to start speaking because the foundation was laid down for me. So I think it summarizes what I think influenced me into leadership. It's public speaking that really played a key role. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, I mean that's very interesting. And then I think before we go into maybe discussing the economy and governance, I think one last question is also like the personal journeys that most politicians have. Many of them are from very humble backgrounds. Some are from. I think I saw this interview with Dora Silea where she was saying she was from a middle class family. So what type of just generally, what type of family was it difficult to join politics in terms of resource constraints, or was there a particular privilege? Because there are people that come from families of dynasties, and you're almost already there. It's just literally a silver platter into politics, and then there are some with absolutely no history and no connections. They don't have the lawyers and the money for joining politics. You know what I mean?
No, but
Because
you can have all those
Zambia
things but
politics,
fail
you're
to
going to
make
go
it.
to jail at least once or twice before you become president. And how many people have the money for Supreme Court appearances? So, but my point is just generally the
No, I
resource.
really gotten your point.
Yeah.
So Zenge, look, you can have all the money, but you don't have the guts, you don't have the drive, you don't have what it takes to push your agenda. You feel that thing is for them. Okay. So really for me if you know where Ndeke is in Kitwe, Ndeke is where retired council workers used to stay. This is where one former council employee, because 1996 President Chiluba decided to sell council houses. This family bought a council house and then they decided to sell it to another person. So that bought a house in that locality. So if you go to Ndeke, Ndeke is not Ndeke and Ndeke village are middle class. Okay, this is where these are former council houses. That would really summarize it for you. But also, what worked for me has nothing to do with having money or anything. What worked for me is I had the conviction early enough. Okay, if you are raising a child and the child has no conviction, opportunities will come, they will not see them. Okay, I am one person who was growing up looking for opportunities. So I went into uni knowing that my path will be leadership. Okay, knowing that, I mean, if I can be head boy for Kitwe Boys Secondary School, the biggest government school in Kitwe, okay, you have Kitwe Boys, you have Mukuba Secondary, you have Ndeke Secondary, you have Mindolo Chamboli, and then you are head boy at Kitwe Boys. Definitely, your levels of exposure are different, okay, because what's key is not the money. What's key is if the mind tells you you can do it. You can sit in a meeting and demand for a fair share of things for young people, for better learning environments, for better books in the library. I mean, at that early stage, the mind is strong enough. That was more important than the money. So I go into CBU. I'm president for the Students' Union, and then 2006, I want to be counselor. I tried to find money. I couldn't find money for campaigns. So I went to dad and I told dad, look, um, I need to contest elections because I've reached a stage where I feel I want to run in an election. Of course, mom was very, um, uh, did not sound very supportive because a parent should ensure that the child is in class. Okay, so mom was telling me, Christoph, you want to be a counselor, okay? I thought you've gone to university to study, because parents want children to finish school. But then dad realized, and I think he convinced mom, that our son wants to venture into leadership, okay? And here's an opportunity. I don't think I got a lot of money from home. The money I got from home was 2,000 kwacha. I still remember the amount which I was given, 2,000 kwacha. I don't know, that time 2,000 kwacha, because that was before the kwacha was rebased, okay?
Yeah,
So we're
yeah,
looking at what, 2 million? those
yeah,
those days
yeah.
I got 2 million, but it's 2,000 kwacha. That is what made me print posters. It made me print black and white flyers. I had a friend of mine who's working in one of the banks today who designed my poster. He actually connected me to a printing company that was able to print posters on credit to say, no, our guy will win. Lucky me, I won that
There's
election.
also a lot of goodwill as well on the way. Yeah.
Yeah, they saw the potential. They saw Christopher doing unionism, speaking on radio, speaking on TV. They said, let's give him the support. So to answer your question, I'm not coming from an elite family in terms of here's a million kwacha, go and become a counselor. Okay, I'm coming from a family that gave me the support that was needed, the conviction, the foundation. Christopher, go and go into college. We will support you and what you do. So I think that more importantly, it's the foundation that was strong, and that's why I'm
think
doing mentorship. Yeah,
mhm. Yeah, no, I think mentorship is also very, very important, because especially for young men as well, to kind of figure out their way, and also just seeing the resilience that you had, and also the path that you took is really inspiring as well. I think you mentioned that you wanted to, your main thing is speaking about the main issues. So I think now it's time to speak about the main issues, largely the economy and also governance. So under our current president, Hakainde Hichilema, Zambia has focused quite a lot on debt restructuring and
yeah.
trying to attract more foreign direct investment. Zambia is expected to grow at about 5%, but we still struggle with a lot of things that from a long time ago, I guess, is still prevalent, like load shedding, and also other issues such as inflation and such things. Uh, from where you sit, do you think that this economy is moving in the right direction? And as somebody who's also looked at, Zambia's economy, looking at the past, it seems like we're dealing with the same issues, but it seems like it's just become more widespread. So, like, how do you think the economy is looking? I'm a bit more pessimistic, but I would
Okay.
like to hear what you have to say. Yeah.
Well, the outlook. First of all,
Mhm.
I did mention that my first degree was in engineering. I did electrical mechanical engineering. Maybe that is why I have this huge drive, this passion for the mining sector, this passion for the energy sector. One of the things I've been learning in while I was growing in leadership is that there are sectors that should anchor other sectors. So if we get the mining sector right, if we get the energy sector right, the rest of the sectors then they'll be like they'll be feeding off the money coming from mining. So how is the outlook looking? How are things looking in Zambia? You talked about debt restructuring. So debt restructuring simply means instead of paying on a Monday, you tell someone I'll pay on Friday. Okay? So debt restructuring
Yeah.
doesn't mean you're off the hook. Okay. So one of the it's a good thing to stagger your payments if the owner of the money says, well and good, I can wait. But also we must agree that when government is deciding to borrow money, and this is what I've been arguing even with the new budget speech by the Minister of Finance, which was delivered last week. Because there are two documents the minister brings to Parliament, the speech and the annual borrowing plan. So the annual borrowing plan simply means you are borrowing to finance your budget. Okay. So old debt, new debt, we are still borrowing. So really, there's really no difference. I don't think that the new guys can even talk about borrowing being a bad thing. They no longer say it's a bad thing because they are also borrowing. Our economy is supposed to grow at 6%. economic growth. That is the prediction for next year. Last year and the other years, I think we saw 2%, 1.2%. Those are economic indicators. The economic students will tell you if the economic growth is around 4 to 5%, then the economy is doing well. We may get the indicator right there, but the actual state of affairs is different. Okay, and I'll talk about affordability of goods and services. If people are lining up for a bag of mealie meal, and the bag of mealie is costing 300 kwacha, I don't think that's a good indicator. Okay, I don't think that is a good indicator. If we are producing enough maize, okay, and the cost of production is okay, are we going to get a bag of mealie meal at 150? I don't think we'll ever get back to 150. And the reason is very simple. To produce maize, you need to produce mealie meal, you have to transport the maize from the farmer to the milling plant. So there's fuel. How much is fuel today? 30 kwacha. I think the minister announced yesterday that the ARB announced we had 30 kwacha. So the 30 kwacha contributes to the cost of the fuel. So it's not possible that the product called mealie meal will be cheap. Okay, so people are complaining. Small businesses, you're running a
Meaning
barber
the
shop.
energy regulation board that governs the cost of fuel. Yeah.
Pardon?
No, I'm just clarifying. ERB is the energy regulation board
Yeah.
that governs the
Yeah.
cost
So,
of
ERB,
fuel.
so ERB is the regulator. They decide every month how much the price of fuel will be. Of course, Zambia doesn't produce any fuel, so it depends on the exchange rate. It depends on the taxes that government adds. So the first point I was going to go to is the energy sector. The energy sector has got two things, Nathan and Zeng. It has got electricity and it has got petroleum products. So let's start with electricity. If you're running a barber shop, you want electricity to be available for you to do the cutting of people who come to the barber shop, and then after 1 month you buy more units. You want to manage your costs. Now there's no electricity for your barber shop, and they tell you go and buy a solar unit. A solar unit will cost you 25,000, 30,000 kwacha, which is like $1,000 or $1,500. I don't think the small guy will manage. So problem number one is that the people want to earn money on their own. They don't want white
Actually,
collar
my
jobs.
barber. There was no
Pardon?
power. I actually met my barber in Lusaka, who used to cut my hair when we used to go to high school. There was no power. It was an electric shaver with batteries. Yeah,
Okay.
an electric shaver with batteries because there's absolutely no power throughout. And I was surprised that the cost of cutting my hair was still the same, but he asked for just like money, just as to help
Yeah.
after. It was quite sad for me. I found it quite sad
So Zeng,
how
that's the
he used
barber
to.
shop.
Yeah,
Then you
yeah.
have a salon. Then you have the guy who's keeping chickens in a chicken run. They need lighting. Then you have the farmer who has to move the water from a stream to his yard, and they want to his small portion of farm. So the cost of electricity, the cost of the impact of electricity on the growth of our SMEs has also been affected. So people need to survive. Not everyone wants a job with a tie. Others want to run their own businesses, barbershops, saloons. So I'm responding holistically uh, from the economic indicators point of view. The technocrats will tell you our economy is growing, but then there are sectors that need to be sorted out. There are problems that we need to sort out, and one of the problems is the energy sector. We get the energy sector right. The mines need electricity to produce your copper. We produce copper in Zambia. They've been crying for electricity. Their production will be affected if we don't give them the power. So I'm seated here asking myself, what are the indicators showing? So there are two indicators: macroeconomic indicators, which are the economic growth, the inflation. These are the examples people use. But then the reality is that we need to fix the energy sector so that the other sectors can feed off and be able to allow our people to participate in the economy. Secondly, mining. So we're producing copper, guys. We are told we are racing towards 1 million tons of copper, which is a good thing. Our target should be 3 million. I don't see us producing 3 million tons of copper in the next 6, 7 years because we don't have the mines that can do that. But then The mines need electricity. Okay. Secondly, undermining. How many Zambians actually own mines in Zambia? We don't have Zambians running mines. We have Zambians working in mining companies. Okay. So technically, you have your section engineer, you have your geologist. These are Zambians. But the problem is that the ownership of the mines, while Zambians are running the mines, the ownership is actually foreign. So you have the big First Quantums, Barrick Gold in Lumwana. These are the big guys who own the mines. Us as engineers, we can only be employed. So I'm seated here asking myself, a performing economy should also have a place for Zambians. Okay. And that is why maybe some investors don't like me. They don't like Christopher because Christopher is not saying we'll grab the mines. Christopher is saying the new mines we're identifying, the new sites, there we should have Zambians owning the bulk of the ownership. If it's 100% shares, half should be for Zambians. That is my thinking. So they don't like me because I'm saying enough of you guys. You have what you have. The future mines, we should partner better. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so the I mean the on the other side they would say that ZCCM has got shares in many of these mines, including I think it's Konkola, the one with Vedanta when they came back.
That's
It was
KCM,
like,
yes.
yeah, ZCCM has minority shares in a number of copper mines, but I think that has always been the case. Although the minority shares have changed depending on the disputes.
Yeah.
During that time. And during the Lungu presidency, there was also that incident of nationalization, and then now it's back to sort of shared type of ownership. And then there's also a lot of big announcements of mines like cobalt, and then you saw a few days ago there was a consortium of business people from First Quantum Minerals CEO, including Goldman Sachs representatives, all of the big banks and venture capital firms,
JP Morgan and whatnot.
all the big names, and we are sort of inundated by the nice graphics of big numbers and big investments. It's almost every single month there's some big announcement. And sometimes I wonder, is it only the mining sector that is growing, that's pushing up this economy? Because is this going to be another period of jobless growth? And I don't know if your option of nationalization is the solution as well, because our history of nationalization, we've had it before when Kaunda was president, and then it resulted in certain inefficiencies in terms of production and reducing bureaucracy. When I see nationalization in this sense, I mean almost everything, from buses to airlines
to be fair, I don't think I don't think he was in support of nationalization completely. To be fair, but you can go on.
Yeah, well, I'm saying this as an alternative, or like
Yeah.
I'm looking at the different options that are available.
Yeah.
What's the direction? Because here it looks like the sacred, production of our country, copper, is going up, and there's new announcements every single day. So
Yeah.
at the same time, when you look at the actual state of people's businesses, they're not radically different to how they were 5 years ago.
No,
People are
no.
not
Totally the same. Almost the same.
yeah. So then, what's the solution? If we have tried nationalization, we have gone to court cases with these mines during the Lungu era. We have brought back huge amounts of foreign direct investment, including all the big AI guys from Mark Zuckerberg, the cobalt, AI and copper and cobalt funding the whole AI thing. There's the Lobito corridor. There's a gigantic race for Zambia's mineral assets globally, not
Yeah,
even.
there's a race actually.
So
There's
how yeah, what's the solution here? Because we seem to have tried everything, and everything doesn't
no,
seem to
no,
have been.
no. There's a difference here. There's a difference, Zenge. First of all, the time when KK was president, the number of Zambians that had the level of education, the level of training at management level to run and operate mines, the section engineers, the electrical engineers, the geologists. Yes, we had a couple of them. We had expatriates, but you see, we had very few people that had the required experience. Because to run a mine, you don't just need the engineer, you need the accountant guys. You need the guys in accounts that understand how to handle taxation, how to handle costing, to make sure that the expenses are just kept somewhere there. So 1960, 1970, 1980 to where we are today, it's over 40 years ago. The excuse for 40 years ago can't apply anymore. Okay, the reason why we failed 40 years ago can't be used to deny us the opportunity to at least try to run a mine. Okay, and I'll share this with you very quickly. There are three stages in mining. Okay, so there's what is called mapping. So mapping is you fly a plane on top. That is what government is doing currently. They are doing what is called geophysical mapping. You want to know, you want to scan your country to know where would their minerals exist. So that is stage one, mapping. Okay. Stage two is exploration. Exploration is where you want to dig to know at what depth are the minerals existing. Okay, you want to value the resource. How much copper do we have? Is it worth the money? Should we even waste time investing money to do what is called mining development if the resource is just inadequate? So exploration is where we've missed the opportunity. We've not invested enough in exploration. That is why the big boys, when they come, Rio Tinto, Anglo American, First Quantum, they do everything. They do the exploration. Once they get the data, once they know the resource is enough for 30 years, okay, we can mine for 30 years. Then they go back to the Gordon, is it JP Morgan, these big financial guys to say, give us 10 million, give us $1 billion, we'll pay you back in every year at this rate. It's a business plan. So where we lose it as a country is we don't invest in exploration. So I'm asking myself as a parliamentarian, and this is the conversation I've taken to Parliament, and we're doing the budget now. I'm asking, why are we allocating little money for exploration? Okay, because we lose the opportunity at exploration. The last stage of mining is called mining development. Very expensive, because if it's an open pit mine, you want to cut out the mine. You want to prepare the mine for the actual mining activity. So I'm asking myself, what could we do differently as a country? Would we get the benefits you guys would want to see? The benefits can't just be in form of taxes. Okay, we can get the tax from any, whether it's a Zambian or foreign mine. So long as the mine is operating, you can get your taxes. So they're not doing us a favor. Secondly, how much would be needed for us to set up even just one mine? Let's start with gold, the easy stuff. And I call it the easy stuff because gold mining is easy to mine. You just dig a bit, you get your gold, and then you get your stones out. The Mufumbwa in Northwestern Province showed us that it is possible. It is possible to do the actual mining without the level of education that we have today. So I want to answer your question by simply stating that the price for copper is good, and dollars per ton of copper is a good price. When you hear First Quantum wants to do $1 billion of investment, it's a pledge they are making because they are looking at the price. Who wants to invest in a commodity that is not selling good? Okay, so let no one tell you there's a miracle, there's something special that has happened. What has really happened is that the price for copper is good. You can't have foreign entities putting in $1 billion. You can't have the Lumwanas, the Kansanshis putting in money when they know that the price of copper is not good. First Quantum runs a mine in Solwezi called Trident in Kalumbila. And are you aware that we don't own not even 1% of shares in Kalumbila mine? It's 100% First Quantum. So there, ZCCM doesn't get anything. The only thing we get from there are job opportunities for young people and the taxes which they have to pay ZRA, which is Zambia Revenue Authority. But me, I want us to do it differently, and I'll summarize under 1 minute. If Mopani Copper Mines in Kitwe is spending $500 million on buying new equipment, buying protective attire, food, and whatever they are spending money on, we need to agree how much of that money will go towards Zambian businessmen and women. We have Zambian businessmen and women that want to do business, but they are not given the right volumes of opportunities in these mining companies. So I've been a strong advocate for, can we define, if 1 billion is your capital expenditure, out of that $1 billion, 30% should be for Zambians or 60% should be for Zambians. We need the law to be defined. Number two, can we also agree that the Kansanshis, the Lumwana, the Mopani, the China run mines on the copper belt, those will live to the current owners. We won't disturb you. I'm not asking that we come and disturb how you are running those mines. We'll let you run because you've invested. But for the new resource, what we are mapping, this one, I'm a strong advocate and I make no apology that Zambians should have a bigger role. Do we do crowdfunding? Do we float shares? Do we do, there must be a model that allows Zambians to play a bigger role. And that for me will be a bigger benefit. Yeah. Who funded that project? Ethiopians funded that project. What? Egypt worried that Ethiopia will use all the water.
Okay. Yeah. So I think you had mentioned quite a bit, and I hope I'm not going to be stepping on too many toes and also taking too much time. But I was just listening to what you were saying, and from my perspective, and I think we did focus quite a lot on the mining sector, which is understandable because I think that's where most of the
Yeah.
state's money and most of
Yeah.
Zambia's like money comes from. But to me, I see the problem a little bit different, and maybe I'm a bit too harsh on the state, because for me, what I see is, like, for example, you said something that is really a really good idea would be for Zambia to start doing exploration by itself, right? But that's an idealistic thing, but it's difficult for me to see that as achievable when the government itself has a lot of inefficiencies. So, like, the Zambian government, from my perspective, just looking at the agriculture sector by itself, like, there are a lot of like inefficiencies that exist within. And even when you look at I'm perfectly fine with borrowing, but it seems to me that when Zambia borrows, a lot of it goes into administrative costs rather than
Okay.
into trying to invest. And I could be wrong here because the last time I looked at the data was quite a while back, so I'm not following your rule of staying up to date here, so I apologize. But
No, it's fine.
regarding the it seems to me that, Zambia isn't really doing a good job of, when you borrow the money, investing it into something that's going to, like you said, like exploration. That's something that could potentially benefit, but a lot of it seems to go back into administrative costs, making the government larger. And I feel like Zambia locks itself into like some really difficult positions. A perfect example would be the is it FISIP, the food support. What's it called? Yeah, I think those are. Yeah, it's a good policy. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like those are places where Zambia's kind of, because it has caused problems in the past, especially for the Kaunda government. But yeah, so how considering these inefficiencies that exist, how can Zambians benefit from the resources, we want to explore and we want to obtain? A
So, so,
long-winded
so you,
question. I apologize.
yeah, no, it's it's
Yeah.
it's it's, it's a very good question. What you're trying to say is that, Christopher, you want government to, on behalf of the people of Zambia, to have a bigger stake, a bigger say in key sectors. Okay, mining, energy, whatnot. You need government to play. That's what you are proposing. But what about the inefficiencies of government? Would that play out negatively in the end? Okay, so let's start with the agriculture sector, and I'll try to be quick. So the agriculture sector, uh, from the year 2000, government then, which is like 25 years ago, decided to introduce what they are calling the fertilizer input support program, where you put people in a group, you give them the farm inputs, they produce the maize. Ideally, within 3 years, those should graduate to from small scale to another level. They should be weaned off. That was the initial plan. Okay, but because of the same inefficiencies you're talking about, where on the list of beneficiaries you have people who are not even beneficiaries appearing, you are spending money, but you're not getting the numbers that you want in terms of maize. We've had those inefficiencies. But in this day and age, um, fast forward 20 years later from the time the program was implemented. Are you aware that Zambia produces, like this year, the forecasting is that we'll produce 3.7 million tons of maize? That's the forecast. 21, at a time when the previous government was leaving, we had 3.6 million tons of maize, okay, which was harvested. So now, if you go to the data, 80% of that maize, that so-called bumper harvest, what you call a bumper harvest, 80% of that maize, which is 3 million, comes from small-scale farmers. Okay? Meaning they are giving 80% of our food security. They are doing a very significant, they are playing a big role. But the problem is the yield. Okay, so collectively they are giving you 3 million and you're saying it's a good total amount that has been collected as maize. But are you aware that our farmers only produce 2 tons of maize on 1 hectare? Because 1 hectare is 100 meters by 100 meters. So from a yield point of view, 2 tons of maize on 1 hectare is low yield. It's not enough. But when you add the total, it's 80% of our maize. So imagine if they were able to produce 4 tons on 1 hectare, meaning they double their production. It simply means that they will be able to get to even 10 million tons of maize. That 10 million tons will be enough for food security, which is the Food Reserve Agency. It will also be enough to export into Congo. Congo likes our maize. Tanzania likes our maize. East Africa, Kenya likes our maize because our maize is not genetically modified. So imagine if we were able to double 3.7 million, we went to 8 million or 10 million, we would have enough for export. So inefficiencies are addressed. No. 3 million is according to FRA, they just need about 1.5 million tons of maize. Okay, that's what they say. But to be on the safe side, we can push it to 2 million. Okay, so if we have 2 million tons of maize, the extra maize, then we can produce feed. Okay, because we need feed for our animals to be healthy. We need to export. Do we export maize or we export mealie meal? Because maize is in raw form, but mealie meal is the final product. So Congolese like our mealie meal. So I'm asking myself, and I'm responding to Nathan. The inefficiencies begin with how do we ensure we double our production? Do we give the fertilizer and the seed to the wrong people? Or we identify the real beneficiaries, the people who should actually do the actual farming. The farmer who says, I'll give you for food security, but also allow me to export part of my maize into Congo so that I make a bit of money, because the profit is on the exports, but the balance has to be corrected. So I've used that as an example, the agriculture sector. Let's go to energy. Let's go to mining. Let's go to tourism. Literally every sector,
Yeah,
colleagues, can give us the right opportunities. But the challenge is, how do we deal with the inefficiencies? And I think that is your question. So we have to
yeah,
brainstorm
yeah.
sector
Because
by
just to
sector.
add,
But let's not give up,
s-
guys. Let's
yeah.
not give up. Nathan,
No,
let's not
because
give up.
the reason why I'm very passionate about this is because I spoke to the farmers themselves. Those guys almost like beat me up. That's how angry they were, you know, because
They don't want you to
because
discuss their
no,
inefficiencies.
because no, because I went there to collect some data for my thesis, and they were not happy. Like they were not happy because of the inefficiencies regarding, how late the payments come, the pricing that FRA sets, the late delivery of inputs, the type of inputs that they get as well is also a problem because they ask for a particular, because they look at the large scale farmers and they say, wait, how come we're getting this type of seed, but then the
Okay.
large scale farmer is getting a different type of seed,
Yeah.
and so on. And to add to that as well, like Zambia is also a rain fed, the type of agriculture is more rain fed, and so on.
Yeah.
But for me particularly, because sometimes every president that has come has sort of expanded the FISIP program. And Zenge, please stop me if I'm talking too much about agriculture, bro. Like we can move on. I apologize. But
Yeah, we
we
have
we
above a million beneficiaries on FISIP. 1.2 million now.
yeah, so it's like it seems to me that FISIP expand every, because I think the current president wants to expand it to turn it into ASASP. I forget the acronym.
CSP is they call it Comprehensive Agriculture Support Program.
Yeah, so it's like it seems
They,
like
they
every
want to
farmer.
abolish FISIP.
Yeah,
They wanted to do it in 2022, but they couldn't.
Yeah, but it seems like he wants to expand it again. And to me, it seems like there are a lot of issues that still need to be addressed, with regards to small scale farmers. The numbers look good. Like, yeah, we're producing, but as you said, it seems like when you zero into the individual themselves, it's like, because even when you talk to middle to large scale farmers, they don't even produce maize for FRA. They're like, we're just doing this for feed, so because the price the price is really bad, and you get into a whole lot of issues with regards to dealing with the state. So that's just just to add to that, that's just where my issue lies. It's like we're taking, like, we're thinking ahead, but then we're not dealing with the issues that are
Yeah. No,
currently
but we
there.
can do
Yeah.
better. I totally agree. We can do better. We can deal with the inefficiencies across all sectors, even just
Hmm.
public services. You want to get your passport. We need to get efficiency in the passport. You want to
Yeah.
process your title deed. The timelines must be clear. And all those are signs that we are not yet efficient. Um, Land availability of drugs. You are putting in money in the national budget for better health care, but then you don't have the drugs. The drugs are missing. So I agree with you that at the core of governance, one of the things every government must do is deal with the inefficiencies. If we sort them out, we might see actually better outcomes on the service delivery side.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm local government, unfortunately, but those reports come to parliament. So you can still shoot. All those reports from committees still come to parliament. Yeah, it has arrows pointing everywhere. Yeah. So yeah, what do I make of it? So three things that MPs do. Number one, approve the national budget. That's our first mandate. Number two, we make laws when this law has to be changed to change the wording. Second responsibility. Third responsibility is oversight. So oversight is where we come in. The oversight is what answers your question. So now, I've read reports from Auditor General from as far back as 15 years ago when I was at a lower level of governance. I've read reports showing where the suspicion for misuse of public funds is, and I want to say, institutional wise, okay, if we don't get the institutional governance correctly, okay, and I'm saying institutional governance, I'm talking about each spending agency of government, because corruption doesn't happen at the politician's level. And you say, because we've arrested this politician, the problem has been resolved. I mean, they are controlling officers in the entire value chain, in the entire expenditure line. From the day a road has to be tarred to the day the contract is awarded, the bidding is done. All those are public servants. There's no politician there, colleagues. The politician is on top there. He's not even the controlling officer. Yeah, but then the question is, from an internal audit control point of view, internal audit control point of view, because internal audit is what makes sure that three quotations are available before you procure. Okay? And two, internal audit should also confirm if those three quotations are not belonging to one owner. Because you can have one guy providing three quotations of three different companies, yet he's a beneficial owner in all the three. So the question for me I would start with is, we discuss corruption from the perspective of money, how much money is being misused, how much taxpayers' money is going to waste, how we could have built more health facilities if we didn't waste that money. The starting point is, why are our internal audit controls weak? Internal audit means before you procure, some guy should verify that procedure has been followed. When you decide to procure, the same guys now should verify that the goods that are being supplied, whether it's uniforms, whether it's ambulances, whether it's foodstuffs for Zambia Army, it's the correct stuff. Now, that is where, for me, the corruption fight should focus. For me, as Christopher Kang'ombe, I would simply say, can we sort out the institutional issues, the systems first? Can we allocate more money to internal audit so that Even when we give money to Anti-Corruption Commission, we give money to DEC. They know what they are looking for. Okay, they'll even say procedure. This says this. Did internal audit provide the controls that are needed before money is spent? Colleagues, if we narrow the conversation about corruption to politicians, let's assume we didn't have politicians in any leadership structure. Let's assume everyone was a technocrat. Let's assume everyone was this accountant, this engineer, the architects. Are you telling me there would be no corruption? There will still be corruption. And how do we avoid focusing on the wrong topic? Okay, and I'm not saying let's not focus on those who acquire wealth which they can't explain. Okay, because mainly that's where the politicians come in. One big house, another big house, a big vehicle, and whatnot. But what about the guys who should control the expenses? What about the guys from the Zambia Public Procurement Authority who should make sure to tar a road you don't spend beyond the acceptable amount? Okay? To build houses for the police, I mean, one single house should not cost more than so much. Where are the technocrats? Where is Zambia Institute of Chartered Accountants? Okay, where is the Zambia Institute of Purchasing and Supply? Where is the Engineering Institute of Zambia? Because the technocrats who get involved in corruption belong to professional bodies. So for me, Zenge and Nathan, I want us to have a holistic view of how we fight corruption. We pay our SCC officers better. We give them better salaries. We give them the tools they need to fight corruption. But let's also tell them, can we put in place systems that will prevent misuse of public funds? So misuse can't be at punishment stage. It should be at expenditure stage. Before you spend your money, can we ensure that people are not spending money on drugs which are expired? Why is America complaining that they gave us $50 million and we didn't use it correctly? If we had internal controls that were effective, this is where Zika comes in. Zambia Institute of Chartered Accountants help us put systems in place to prevent unnecessary expenditure before we pursue those who actually are suspected of acquiring wealth. What about the civil servants who facilitate those transactions? I would focus on that. As if I had the authority, I would put in more money on internal controls. I don't care what happens with those other things, but for me, I know it would save money if the internal controls are correct, if the systems are defined. To spend money, you need to do A, B, C, D. If those systems are not followed, that's where now anti-corruption comes in, and we need to give them the capacity. We need to continue training the officers so that they do the right thing.
I wanted to ask both of you a question. Actually, do you think that because we've ignored, I think one element is the moral institutions like churches, mosques. Do you think that they've failed to a certain degree? This is a
You
question
got to change
open-ended.
Sunday. Well, Nathan, you got Sunday. Monday,
Yeah.
you are in the office. The forces tempting you are different on Monday. Yeah. But if we have systems in place, even if you are tempted to touch public funds, you won't touch.
Right. Very true. Very true. And so I guess I can move on to the next question, which is I think we've touched on many things, and I think you also sort of hinted towards it in the beginning when we were talking, calling for more young people to take part. And Zambia is one of the youngest countries in the world, but I think there is a lot of there's lack of hope, I guess, in the systems and in politics and these sorts of things when you speak to young people. So what would you say to young people who feel like politics doesn't represent or include them?
Politics doesn't include them, or where they feel
Represent them.
there's no space for them. So there are a couple of young boys and girls who want to start at the highest level. They want to be members of parliament. A few of them want to be councillors. A few of them want to be mayors. But majority I've spoken to want to be MPs. They want to be honorable members of parliament. Okay, so I've told them you have two ways of getting there. Number one is attempt at the highest level for the first time. Next year there are elections. Give it your best shot. But if you fall short because maybe you have one or two things you haven't worked on, you still have 2031 to come and contest. But then there are those I've also advised. There's no harm in you starting at councillor level. Build up a bit of brand. Build up your brand. Okay, people should know you for something. Let people say that's our young man. We've allowed him to grow as councillor. We're making him member of parliament. It's another route. So those that want space in politics, strategy becomes important. It's not just what you want. I want to be MP. It's a good thing, but it goes beyond that. You have to get ready for the task. Okay. And with political power, your ideas are also as good as you have the ability to win an election. Because you can have the brilliant ideas, but you are seated in a corner. You don't know how to win an election. How are you going to influence things in parliament? How are you going to influence things in the council? So my thinking is that we may have to encourage young people, and this is where my mentorship sessions come in. I'm doing mentorship with three other young people, teaching them how to do effective public speaking, teaching them strategy on how to win an election, how to mobilize money for politics, how to get your work done once you are given the opportunities. So mentorship becomes key. So is there space for young people? There's actually space for no one. There's only space for those who offer themselves. I don't think there's a table with 24 seats where they say that seat is for Peter, that seat is for Derek, that seat is for Nchimunya. No such seats exist. What is there is space for those that offer themselves. You make the right noise. Today you're on radio, tomorrow you're on a podcast. The other day you're speaking on a different platform. The next thing people will say, Christopher, we want to host you in America. I was in Arizona 3 weeks ago. Zambians living in Arizona invited me. They wanted to hear my views on mining because in Arizona, that's where you do copper mining. Is there a seat there in Arizona marked Christopher Kang'ombe? There's no seat there. It's Zambians out there saying, can we hear from this Zambian who is a parliamentarian? Can we hear his thoughts on this? Because consistently I'm speaking. When Zenge told me we want to host you on a podcast, I said, please, let's do it. Let's do it. We've not been able to do it in good time because the schedule has been crazy. But I didn't lose this opportunity. I took it with both hands. Here I am, I'm speaking, I'm articulating my thoughts. Others will have different thoughts, but here I am. So for young people out there, my message to you is that there's no seat with your name marked on it. You have to offer yourself, push yourself, speak to Christopher, who's ready to give you free advice on how to transition into leadership. So space doesn't exist. There are only opportunities for those who offer themselves. I think that would be a very fair comment to make. Yeah. So well, I'll first of all give young people some free advice. Um, they have to stand out. How do you stand out? How do you stand out? You do politics differently. Okay, so you guys have given me an hour to speak to you, answer a couple of questions, have a chat. This for me is a conversation we're having about our country, about Africa and what it can achieve. I can use this 1 hour to attack individuals. Every question you're asking me, I can draw in people. Okay, I mean, I was debating when I was 17 years old. I can bring in people in this conversation. I can start describing people, how tall they are, how short they are, whether they are light skinned or they are dark. I mean, I have that. Guys, I can do that. But you see, I've decided that I want to, maybe the word is not stand out, but I want to do things differently. I want to be able to go on radio. I have 30 minutes on Radio Christian Voice, hammer on energy, suggest my proposals on how we can empower Zambians, our empowerment funds. How can we redesign these policies? I'll utilize my 1 hour. I don't want to waste people's times. So where is the polarization coming from? The participants have chosen to do something different. The participants want to attack each other. Okay, Monday to Friday, the headline is this person did this. This is not the right person to be in leadership. Yes, this is not the right person to be in leadership, but what can you do differently? What is your policy proposal? It's not the most exciting of politics. People like name calling in politics. That's more newsworthy. Christopher has called Zenge this, and then it's a huge headline. What if we taught our young people what if we taught our young people, the upcoming leaders, that look at Christopher, 19 years in leadership, he has no record of name calling. How has he risen? I tell young people, how did I do 10 years as counselor? Because I was calling community meetings. When I was counselor, every weekend there would be a meeting either to clean up garbage or to discuss which ones are our priority projects. People said this young man has potential. Society groomed me because I was more concerned about their issues. So yes, we may have lost a generation. We still have a couple of people that prefer the old type of politics. Me, I think we can do politics differently. We can teach young men and women that this polarization doesn't build the nation. What will build the nation is for Nathan to ask me, you're saying that we need to do this in agriculture. Is it practical? Is there a model that has worked? Is there a budget line to support your thoughts? Is irrigation possible? What would be the cost of irrigating a farm? I mean, let's discuss the key issues. If we did that over the next 5 years, we may achieve something. The culture you have highlighted maybe changed, because cultures are practices we adopt and we continue to transfer. So if I do the same at 40 years, next 5, 10 years, when I decide I'm done with politics, will I be remembered as the guy who did name calling, or people will say Christopher mentored young people into a different style of politics? Now imagine if all of us did the same. Maybe we can correct the problem. Right now, Zenge, Nathan, we are in a huge challenge. You've talked about the barrier of the late president. Um, Look at the comments on social media. Look at a political party member of this political party laughing, joking about the death of a former president. I mean, that's unnecessary. We can still resolve our problems without having this name calling, which we've witnessed. So the polarization, guys, it's real. It's there, but I don't think that it's a problem we can fail to resolve. Why is it that, for instance, people, when they are marrying each other, they don't look at tribe, they don't look at which political party you belong to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was basically saying thank you very much for taking the time. Because to be very honest with you, I'm really inspired by this interview. So at least, not everyone in politics is is completely so far gone, and also the fact that we've had this interview, without having to go into name calling and these sorts of things,
Absolutely.
and simply focusing on the ideas is really great, because that's what essentially what we're also trying to do with this podcast, which is to actually talk about the real issues and not simply go into name bashing. As much as that would get a lot of views, I think that doesn't bring I don't think that brings the nation forward. So on behalf of all of our listeners, we'd just like to say thank you for the time, and yeah, to all of our listeners, thank you for listening to us, and be sure to subscribe and follow us on every platform.
Cool.
I am an African.